Hello. Well, here I am. Hopefully I am in the correct spot. I'm going to be I'm checking my phone right now for the group to make sure I'm in there. That's how I will check. I don't expect people are going to be sitting around knitting right now. Here I am. I see myself on my phone, so I guess we're good. And I'm using StreamYard, and that is a way to go live somewhere. And so thank you so much for those of you who have been in my knitting club, and it's been a lot of fun. I've actually had this almost finished for quite a while now, but I just haven't taken the time to do the Kitchener stitch, which is also called the grafting stitch. I have put on this group a video that I thought really explained the grafting stitch or Kitchener stitch. And I have to tell you, this part I haven't mastered real well. I have made a lot of socks, but every time I come to the Kitchener stitch, I have to really, really think about what I'm doing. So the simple form is that you are going to put your stitches with the needles on the stitches on your two needles. You have to have the same number of stitches on each needle. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, so that's okay. I have the knitting facing me. And when I'm looking at this, I have knitting facing me, and then the other needle is purl facing me. So the little thing that you want to say is knit off, purl on the front. And then the back is going to be purl off, knit on. So you can keep saying that until you're all the way to the end. Knit off, purl on. Purl off, knit on. And what you're going to do is you're actually weaving so that at the end, when you take the needles off, it will look like it's just completely knitted together. It won't look like you sewed it together. If you just sew it together, you're going to end up with bumps and it's going to look weird. There may be other ways to finish off the toe. Of course, this would be when you make socks that are from the top down. I have made socks that you start at the toe and work your way up, and that does work well. It is a little tricky getting started. I actually made a pair that were toe up circular needles 2 at a time. That was quite a challenge, but that's me. I like a challenge. There are other ways to make socks, but I think if you learn this pattern first, it will kind of set you up for, knowing the basics, and then you can do versions of that as you want to. So thank you for coming to the sock club. I have this one almost done. I've knitted this one all the way to the cast on, what do you call that? You're picking up stitches, the gusset. So I'm like at the gusset part. So parts of socks are easy. I would like to make my goal to make socks so that every part is easy. I think it's a little tough to get started. You kind of cast on all of your stitches, and then you do knit 2, purl 2. That's what I do on these. You can do knit 3, purl 1 for a different type of ribbing. Then we did this part of the heel. Then we did turn the heel. Then we cast on for the gusset. Then we had to decrease stitches. So there's certain parts you can just kind of knit without thinking. But then there's other parts that you really need to think about what you're doing, like the grafting stitch. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of move it down, and I'm going to do this on the video. And as you know, I feel like this is kind of the hardest part for me. I have done it. I did that on the last pair of socks I did, but it didn't come out the greatest. But it just takes practice like everything else, right? Okay, so I said knit off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit. I'm going to put the needle in as if to knit. Then I'm going to let that stitch come off with the needle. Then I'm going to put the needle through the next stitch as if to purl. And I'm going to keep that stitch on. And then I'm going to pull it through. One of the keys of this is also to just kind of keep it pulled together, so at the end you don't have a whole bunch of big loops that you have to tighten up. You can tighten it a little bit, but you don't want to have to do that too much. Then you're going to do purl off. So purl off. So I'm sticking that in as if to purl. The other thing is you want to keep your yarn below the needles. You don't want the loops to come above. So that's going to be purl off. Make that come off all the way. No split stitches. And then I'm going to do knit on. So I'm going to keep that stitch on, and I'm going to make sure all of the yarn goes underneath the needles. And I'm just going to kind of pull it a little bit. All right, so that's my first two off. So now I'm going to do knit off. Okay. And purl on. Purl off. So that can come all the way off. And then we're going to do knit on. So like I said, if you have a little bit of loopage, you can kind of tighten it up at the very end, but you just want to make sure your loops are all going the right direction, and that you haven't like crossed over the needles. Okay, so that was knit on. So now I'm back to the front again, and I'm going to go knit off, purl on. You can do that like in one motion, as in one of the videos that I posted in the group, and just get your loops all in the right place. Because when you're done, it's okay if there's a little bit of looseness, but if they're too loopy, it'll be hard to figure out how to tighten them. Then I'm going to do purl off. So that one comes off, and then knit on. Purl off, knit on. And if you have to just keep saying it to yourself, just do what you got to do, right? Because at the end, if you have to pull this out, it's not easy. Just saying. Just letting you know, I've done it before. Okay, so now we're going to the knit. I see I have a little loop here, so I'm just going to tighten it up a little bit. As long as everything's in the right direction, tighten them is not a problem. Okay, so knit off and purl on. So you leave the purl one on, tighten it a little bit, purl off, and knit on. Doing this out loud is really helpful too. So knit on. Like I said, you want everything underneath the needles, okay? So now I'm doing knit off. And purl on. I'm back to the front. Purl on. I'm being very brave and doing this online. Live. purl on. Okay, now I'm doing purl off. Now, if I were you, and if this is your first time, you know, you might want to watch this video a couple times before you actually try it. Okay, so that was purl off, knit on. Or watch one of the other videos that I've posted in the group. Okay, so knit off. Purl on. Okay, so now we're going to go to purl off in the back to knit on. Okay, that one went over the needle, so I'm going to make it go underneath the needle. Knit off. Be careful when you get to the end. I'm just kind of holding it with my fingers so they don't just pop off on me. So knit off, purl on. Okay, purl off. Okay, purl off. So I'm just going to make that one come off. It's getting a little tricky with holding everything. Plus I'm trying to hold it up for the camera. So that's purl off, and now I'm going to do it knit on in the back. Now I'm going to knit off. So in the front, it's always going to be knit off and then purl on. I'm kind of holding it with my fingers so the stitches don't come off. Purl on. Okay, and then purl off. And knit on. Okay, keeping all of the yarn underneath. Now I'm going to knit off on the front, purl on. All right, and then I'm at the back is knit purl off. That's a back is purl off. So now I have that stitch off. So now I only have one stitch on the needle, and that would be a knit. So I'm going to come across and knit that one. And I now have all of my stitches off of the needles. Okay, and they look good. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tighten them. So I'm going to take and pull it out flat. And I'm just going to take my little needle here, and I'm just going to pull the stitches with my needle, like one by one, just go from the beginning of my grafting stitches, and I'm just going to pull a little bit, one stitch by one stitch, until I am done. And not too tight. You don't want to pull it too tight. You just want to make it match the other stitches that you've already knitted so far. So it came out pretty good. So this is the final step of your sock. And since you only do this stitch, you know, once per sock, I have seen on the videos of more accomplished knitters than I that, you know, a lot of people have the same like struggle, like just learning the process. And then you want to just make sure that you, every time, just, you know, practice the saying what you need to say. And don't be afraid to review, because it's a lot easier to do it right the first time than to take it out and have to redo it. And if it's loose, like mine's a little bit loose, but it's okay. You just take your time and tighten up the loops all the way to the very end. But if you don't do it correctly and you get the stitches crisscrossed, it's a real pain. I've done it. So take your time if you have to. And like I did, I just kind of waited until I had the time to do it. I didn't try to rush it, because if you try to rush, you're going to get very frustrated, and then, you know, you won't want to do it again. So I'm on the very last loop, but so far so good. So thanks for watching. Let me know how you're doing. I hope you finish your socks, and I hope it goes well, and please post some pictures and let me know how you like these videos, and I can't wait to see what you guys are doing. Have a great day. Bye.